Welcome back to Sub-Zero Hero, the start of Season 9. We set out with the goal of taking a team from the bottom of Norwegian football to the top, using nothing but our youth intakes, and we've only gone and done it. And today, we're going to be kicking off our first season in the Premier Division. The odds are against us, 1,000 to 1 shots to win the title. It looks like it could be a long and bitter struggle against relegation this season. If we're to achieve anything, we really needed a good youth intake to come through with a couple of Wonderkids that might help us compete at this level. And you will not believe what our head of youth development has delivered. So let's have a look at this exciting next generation of talent that our head of youth development has brought through. It was an absolute bust, I'm afraid. What a heap of garbage this bunch were. Look at this casual personality. Absolute dross, and he wasn't the only one. This is Morten Dreyer. He's a 5'2", strength of 3, jumping reach of 1, unambitious left winger. I mean, give me strength. Well, give Morten Dreyer strength. He's barely got any. This was the biggest batch of youth intakes that I'm not offering contracts to in our 8 seasons at the club. We've given contracts to a few of them, purely to bulk out the size of the under-19 squad, but I don't hold out a lot of hope for a lot of these boys. This is Paul Runningen. On the face of it, his attributes are not terrible, but this guy, ostensibly as a striker, he's got dribbling and finishing of 5, a fairly loyal personality. He's not pulling up any trees. Perhaps most alarmingly, natural fitness of 3. That's lower than my natural fitness. The coaches think this boy's got a bit of potential, but he's going to have to improve that natural fitness, I think. Otherwise, he's going to be slithering around like a slug up there. We had other players come through that really are not that great. We've got a young winger called Michael Flirtra, but this is a young winger with crossing a 5, dribbling a 5, and he falls over as he's running up the wing. Spirited, he's not a terrible personality, but I don't see him improving enough to ever feature in the first team. Slightly better players came through defensively. Let me introduce you to the Juice. This is Jeffrey Joosten, a Dutch 15-year-old goalie. Tribute-wise, not the worst goalie you have ever seen, but personality-wise, he continues a long tradition of unambitious goalkeepers coming through the Tromsdalen Academy. Let me introduce you to our graduate from 2 years ago, unambitious, and our graduate from last year, unambitious. Do we have a senior goalkeeper who could mentor these boys? No, we do not, so we are pretty much stuck with these. Well, at least until Pedersen is old enough to maybe mentor the unambitious youngsters that are coming through. Maybe I've not shown you the best of our youth intake yet. Maybe the best player is this guy here, Morten Richardson. Fairly determined, he's not a terrible personality. And attribute-wise, he looks a little bit more rounded. If you look at everything that's a 9 at the moment, and imagine that got into double figures over the next year to 18 months, well, suddenly there's a player that might be able to make some substitute appearances in our first team, perhaps. And we had some reasonable candidates come through on both sides for fullback positions. Natural fitness of 5 is not great for Osterberg, but spirited personality is not too bad. And again, he's got 7s, 8s and 9s in lots of areas. If they all went double figures, again, you can maybe see him featuring in the first team occasionally, as you probably could for Jostein Øyegaard. Again, fairly professional, better personality this time. Strength not great, a little bit slow as well. Otherwise, well, he's got most of what you would look for a fullback. So there are some players that we're blooding in the under-19s. You never know. If they train like absolute machines, we might up them to the first team, but they've not been stunning. I think the first team is where we should head next and show you what we're thinking as our formation and our tactics for this very important season. So after the success of this 4-1-4-1 formation in some big games for us last season when we were playing the top teams in the first division, I'm thinking it's how we're going to start this inaugural campaign in the Premier Division this season. playing quite a low tempo, short passing game, trying to maximise the amount of time that we spend on the ball, and also just trying to protect our defence a little bit, who are a little bit slow. And I think our strength is in some of these midfield positions. Gerser, Dusund, Ibsen, Hartvigsson, trying to get forward and provide some support to Emper, who I think is developing into a pretty good all-round striker who's probably capable of occupying two defenders all by himself, given his physical and aerial prowess. And I'm hoping that Hartvigsson as an inverted winger and Dusund Ibsen as a central midfielder on attack can flood forward and support him. We'll get crosses into the box, not only from Gerser, but from Kristoffersson up from wing back as well. And so this is what we're going to use in our game against Haugesund today. Yes, Haugesund finished in the playoffs last season, but they managed to win those playoffs, progress all the way to the final. They won a penalty shootout against our city neighbours Tromsø, so they've been relegated the same season as we've got promoted, and Haugesund have stolen their place. It means we are getting our campaign at the Premier Division level underway against a team that was in our division last year, but I'm branding Haugesund our fierce rivals. They beat us in the playoffs in the First Division 2 seasons ago. They then stole Ludvig Dreyer from us in the transfer market when we were trying to bring him back during last season's transfer window. Then they also beat us home and away last season as well. On the Dreyer news though, we've had a bid accepted for him from Haugesund. Now, is he good enough to come in and play Premier Division football for us? Probably not. He's not gone on to another club and trained on, really. As a midfielder, passing a 9 and tackling of 6. He's not great, but he'd be an extra body for us, which is good. We've had a bid accepted for £10,000, which is well within our budget. And crucially, he has a professional personality. And I really need people with good personalities, because I have only got one senior player at the moment that I can use as a mentor. It's our captain, Henrik Usali Hansen, and he is mentoring about 38 different youngsters by the looks of it. If I could bring Ludvig Dreyer back into the club with that personality, I could get him mentoring some of the 15 and 16-year-olds, maybe some of those ones that have got unambitious personalities, and try and turn them around a little bit. But to today's game, it's going to be tough. Haugesund, even though they've only just come up, have been one of the top spenders during this transfer window. And after his sending off in the last game of last season, we're going to be without little Hugo today. I'm guessing the man we're going to bring in to replace him is going to be little Chrissy Nuts, who burst onto the scene a couple of seasons ago with a hat-trick on the final day of the season where we're promoted from the second division to the first. In that first season in the first division, he looked like he was developing well, but last season, bit of a train wreck for old Nutsy. Maybe we might switch it around and I might play Hartvigsson up front as the deep line forward today, potentially bring in possibly Schönerson there over on the left wing. Here's a guy who never really improves through his training, but he might be the player that we use today. Talking of guys that do improve through their training, Martin Dusund Ibsen. We've sold him on now, 2.2 million, rising to 2.9 million. We've got him on loan for the entire season though. He's going to be so important to us. He's now, in just 2 seasons, improved by 92 attribute points. Means Resolute really is a personality to look out for. Must have a great mix of determination, professionalism and ambition as well, because he has been an absolute warrior for us. So this is what we're thinking for this season. It's going to be a more cautious season. It's going to be one where survival is the only goal that we've got. We're going to cobble together our team, decide who we're going to put up front, and we're going to see you for the crucial kickoff against a team who we really need to take maximum points from if we're going to stand a chance this season. Here we go then, we are underway. Premier Division football has finally come to Tromsdalen. We decided to go with Hartvigsson as our front player, by the way. We moved Christofferson up from left back to the left wing. And we brought little gorgeous George Llewellyn in as our left back. We are, well, hurtling our way through the game. And we are absolutely highlightless so far. 2 shots each. 1 on target each. We got the better of the XG. But this has been a bit of an uneventful first half, hasn't it? Are we going to get through an entire half of football without mustering a single highlight? We absolutely are. I guess you'd say that's not a terrible first half, although I would have liked to have seen the boys actually in action in the Premier Division. I think we need to go and tell them we need a little bit more for the second period, and we'll see you out there and blink, and you could miss this second period. Okay, we are underway. Let's see if we get a highlight. I have made a little substitution, actually, for this second half. I've brought Knutson up front because Hartvigsson wasn't playing well, and neither was Gorgeous George at left back. So Christofferson's now gone back to left back. Hartvigson's over on the left wing, and Chrissy Nuts comes on up front. I gave him a good team talk. He seemed up for it. Whether that'll make any difference, I don't know. We have some highlights at the start of the second half, and they're not coming to us. They are all going to Haugesson, so they are now starting to get on top a little bit. 4 shots, 2 on target. In fact, I'm going to pause the game here, and I'm going to demand a little bit more, because we've now seen our boys in action in the Premier Division, but we've not seen them have an attack yet. And is that any surprise? I suppose I'm playing a 4-1-4-1 formation. We're not going out there to attack. We're going out there to try and be compact and solid. So maybe it's little surprise that we're not threatening very much. And in fact, I think we're going to get to the 70-minute mark, and I think we're going to have to make some changes because we've not shown anything since the early stages of this game. Hartvigson's been poor. Deuce and Ibsen has been poor. I'm thinking I'm going to tweak things a little bit, and I'll see you back out there for the final 20. Okay, we're back underway. I've nudged the tempo up a little bit just to try and make us a little bit more potent on the counter maybe. And I've also pushed the wingers up a little bit as well. It's not made a huge amount of difference though. When we still only had 3 shots, 1 on target. I think it's time to make more changes. Hartvigsson has been poor. We're going to bring Schörnerson on. And Kim Heron is not looking like he's got the best body language. We're going to bring on little Tony Berg, who can at least take a free kick and a corner. Maybe that will help us in the final few minutes. It's been a little bit of a damp squib. We'll give them one more demand more. But I think we're racing all the way through to full time. And we've not seen a single threatening chance for our team. Well, what do you make of that? Poor performances in the attacking parts of the pitch. Deuce and Ibsen with a 6.5, pretty disappointing. Knutson was poor. Hartvigsson was poor as well. I guess it will look better once we get Hugo Emper back in the team. And defensively, well, the boys looked pretty solid at the back, I suppose. Jensen played well just in front of the back 4. And well, we didn't come under undue pressure from a team that's beaten us home and away last season and beat us in the playoffs the season before that. Although, it wasn't a stellar performance, was it? I think we're going to point the finger and we're going to say, at least we avoided defeat. We'll get the body language up because we're going to have some tough games coming over the next few fixtures. Let's have a look at what we're going to be getting up to next. 0-0 draw gets us underway. We're going to be playing Bode Glimt, one of the best teams in the division. A team, well, there you go, that won the title last season. They are going to be a challenge for us. Then we've got Arlesund, the team that won the first division that we were in last season. But we're away from home again. And then we're just going into big game after big game. Christiansen, Mulder, Odd, Brann, Rosenborg. We have got some big games coming. We're going to go and play a few of them offline. Well, at least we've got our first point as a Premier Division outfit. But I think we're going to have to up our game considerably if we've got any chance of avoiding relegation and proving ourselves to be Sub-Zero heroes.